Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Today we have a classic Uncanny X-Men double feature, two very cool issues from my favorite era of the Uncanny X-Men, one of my favorite eras. Anyway, can't wait to share it with you guys. So subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and let's get right into it. Like I said, this is one of my favorite eras of the X-Men. Paul Smith had just come off of his all too brief run. John Romita Jr. took over as the artist on the book along with Dan Green, the inker. I was such a Paul Smith fan that I was really devastated when he left, and I wasn't a huge fan of John Romita Jr., what he was doing at first, but he grew on me very quickly, and I love this stuff. It holds a special place in my heart, and it's funny because I was a huge fan of JR's Spider-Man stuff, so I don't know what the disconnect was, but anyway, I loved his Daredevil, I loved his Thor, I love all his stuff after this, and this actually, like I said, holds a special place in my heart. 178, so let's start there. We still have the Paul Smith corner box art, which I love. I think those are so iconic. I think they're the ones from the Marvel Universe Handbook, if I remember correctly. Great cover of Storm and the X-Men fighting, I guess they were called, were they called No, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I think this is pre-Freedom Force. Anyway, Colossus has just been frozen. I love Chris Claremont always doing horrible things to the X-Men. And it felt like it had such gravity at the time. Like, I was low-key devastated when this happened. I thought, oh my god, poor Colossus. I love Colossus. Like, what's happening? Hell hath no fury. A Stan Lee presentation starring the Uncanny X-Men as chronicled by Chris Claremont writer, John Romita Jr., penciler, Bob Wiacek and Brett Brading, inkers. That's interesting. Glynis Wein, colorist, and Tom Orzechowski, letterer. Louise Jones, editor. Jim Shooter, chief. All right, so we have Colossus encased in this, I forgot exactly what happened, but he was getting something really hot poured on him, and I think Storm had to cool him down, and he wound up becoming a statue. Anyway, he gets better. We all know that. This is hysterical. I love this for so many reasons. Okay, first of all, I love Rogue has just for how long has she been here? She joined in 171. Okay, so this is 7 months later. Xavier's still working with her. You know, she's got two personalities in her head from absorbing Carol Danvers. So, I mean, it is actually kind of cool that Xavier would try to help her, and it makes perfect sense. I think it's kind of genius. Not a big fan of when villains become heroes, which happens so often in the X-Men. However, I think the Rogue thing was done so well. I love that Scott and Madeline are on their honeymoon, and he sends a picture from their honeymoon to the professor of them in bed together, a heart-shaped bed. I mean, come on, that is so hysterical. Who would do that? Xavier is practically your father. Would you send your parents honeymoon pictures from the boudoir? I do not think so. I love this flourish here. Mohawk Storm, but she's wearing her cape for this Danger Room session. I think it is so cool. Very nice. She slapped the case. Oh, really? Next time I'll fly faster. I love the banter between Storm and Wolverine. Always so good. I love this panel here. It's so funny because Wolverine, obviously Hugh Jackman sort of broke the mold. You know, he's all big and sexy and muscular, but Wolverine's supposed to be this feral, nasty, savage little runt. And I love Storm just carrying him there because she's so regal and majestic and beautiful. And I just think that's kind of funny. I love when the characters who can't fly have to be carried by the ones who do. I don't know, it just cracks me up. Did it ever crack you guys up? I'm sure it did. You know, we're all in this together. Anyway, I love little cameos like this. It was fun to see the robot receptionist from Fantastic Four make an impromptu appearance here in the X-Men. I think that's the best way that how Marvel utilized sort of showing the shared universe and anything. See, it's funny. It did take me a hot minute to get used to John Romita Jr.'s pencils, but I have such an appreciation for it now. Look how cool this panel is. I mean, that's just great storytelling there. Could you imagine being and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kitty's power is so freaky. Like, wouldn't that just freak you the F out if you were like a cab driver? I mean, it's kind of jarring just getting into an Uber being like, here I am, rock me like a hurricane. And then, like, if you could just actually phase through the door, that would like, I mean, there would be no clean Uber driver underwear in the city, would there? Callisto. Mask, just take this dead transient and make her face look like Kitty. No big deal. No moral corruption or issues there, right? I mean, I guess we are Morlocks after all. What's happening here? A dragon made of fire. That's pretty hardcore pyro. Avalanche. This is cool. See, this showcases like great superhero action here. You know, it's funny because I was just talking to someone recently about, you know, superhero comic books. And I have to say, like, as much as I love the drama and, like, the characterization and all that kind of stuff, I just love the battles, too. Like, it's just fun to see superheroes use their powers in creative ways against each other. Great shot of Destiny there. That's fun, too. The Blob. But I mean, look at that face. So funny. More great penciling. I like, why even bother taking a cab if you're just gonna like hover in the cab like that? I don't know. Anyway, very cool. Love the storytelling. It's so funny because I immediately can tell the shift to the Brett Breeding inks here from Dan Green. Or no, it was Bob Wiacek. I apologize. But Brett Breeding is always using like these zipatones. It's like such a signature of his work right there. Like, if I can just see him like inking Bob Layton on, what do you call it? Iron Man. And adding like those gorgeous glute muscles on Wolverine, you know that those weren't drawn that tight. And I love the zipatone effect on Destiny in the background. That is really cool. I love art for art's sake. You know, it's like, because it's like, that's really no big reason to do this effect, but they did it anyway, and I think it just looks so cool. And this, we're coming up to one of the most devastating comic book events in my entire life. This is before comic book characters died every issue and were brought back every other issue. So Kitty is on top of this building, and she's stumbling around, and oh my god, she falls while the X-Men are fighting, not there to save her. Some great inking on this page. I always, like, if you guys watch my channel, you know that I get bothered by color mistakes. And why are Storm's lips green? Like, there is no reason on God's green earth why her lips should be green. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. WTF, right, guys? That is so cool there, too. I love this. Mystique is so cool. I love her old school costume. I was actually thinking about Mystique because, you know, when you're a geek, you just think about stupid stuff all the time. But I was thinking about Mystique and how cool she was, and how, like, what they did for her in the movie was actually, like, totally cool and, like, elevated the character. Because sometimes they make changes that are just, like, feel gratuitous or stupid or whatever. But that was definitely a good one. But I'll always have a place in my heart for this costume right here. It is so classic and amazing. This is such a great speech. Like, this is Chris Claremont. Like I said, like, you know, we got this great superhero battle and everything, but then we have this really great moment between Rogue and Mystique saying, like, I don't want you to rescue me. I'm here so Xavier can help me. I'm going nuts. And Mystique, of course, being her mother, you know, has to do what's best for her child. And she begrudgingly leaves her with Xavier. And here comes my devastation, you guys. I was so freaking gutted. I could not believe it. Like, I was so upset to see the image of Kitty dead here. I totally thought she was dead. I thought it was over. Could you imagine? That kind of would have been, like, super screwed up if they just did that and left her dead and been like, oh, well, she's dead. But no, a fate worse than death. She has to marry Caliban from the Morlocks. But who wouldn't want to be Mrs. Caliban? He was so nice. He had a nickname for her, Sprite Child. And, you know, he spoke in the third person, which always says, like, nice person to me. I'm just kidding. Didn't Gollum speak in the third person? I think he did. He wasn't super nice, was he? A lot of fun, great art here. See, here's an example of like the lament of the shitty printing back in the day. Like, I would love to see, that's your cue, Philip, for my digital upgrade. But I would love to see how this is supposed to look, because I have a feeling the art is way better than it looks here. There's a lot of great detail. I also have starring the Uncanny X-Men. What happened to Kitty? She decided to become a punk bride in a MTV video. Chris Claremont, writer, John Romita Jr. and Dan Green, artist, Tom Orzechowski, letterer, Glennis Swin, colorist, Louise Jones, editor, Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. Now this is interesting. Here we have, you would normally see this in like Art Adams and Terry Austin, the little, what Ed Piskor calls the screen door hatching here. So it's very interesting to see it here from John Romita Jr. and Dan Green. And I was going to say, I love Dan Green's inks. I think his inks are so good. The art on here is so cool. Like this place in the morgue. Storm's lightning and powers are kind of going crazy. She thinks she's identifying Kitty's body. I mean, this has to be a tough pill to swallow. And then Wolverine says the coroner out, of course, to tell them that it's not Kitty. The scent's wrong. He would know. Of course he would know. I mean, he's the best there is at what he does, and what he does isn't very nice, after all. So many great shots of Storm in here. Like I said, I'm definitely like in a new level of appreciation for what John Romita Jr. brought to the X-Men. Just panels like that alone, I love that. Like this was always one of my favorite panels. I think that's so cool when they utilize effects like that. And another Chris Claremont trope kind of thing happening here. Like, she feels gorgeous, she looks beautiful, she's the bride, she's drugged up, and she's really getting married to Caliban, who, I mean, you're gonna upstage the broom, Callisto, and dress exactly like the groom. Or no. That's just her illusion. Okay, I guess. So weird. Like, Chris Claremont is British, so is this some sort of, like, British-style royal wedding that they're having here? I don't know. Love the headband. So classic 80s, right? Like, you're, like, this Morlock bride with, like, a ripped-up costume, and you got, like, the headband. So dope. Love it. Really, really cool art. Colossus, oh my god, I forgot all about him. He's frozen in a statue. Callisto, I promise I will come back to marry Caliban, but you gotta let me go. Run, run, run. Leech, lost, lonely, scared. Leech, so cool. I mean, Chris Claremont created a bevy of characters that are just so cool, classic, iconic, amazing. I love this series of panels too. I always thought it was so cool, changing the look of everybody. He was gonna make her look ugly so she would fit in with the Morlocks. Like, how crazy is that? How gang-like. Ooh, mush face. What if he was like, oops, my bad. And then Leech walks by and he's like, I can't fix you because Leech just walked by and leeched my powers. Iconic. Great panel of the X-Men right there. That is so cool too. I love that. Like, that isn't something we're used to seeing from Storm, like a lightning bolt kind of done more as like an energy signature kind of situation. Snicked. It's about time. I love that panel. That is so cool. See, this is what I mean. This is before like Image Comics, where, you know, popularized like having a money shot on every page where you're having one great dynamic panel. And you get a lot of that in traditional storytelling, but you get it within a lot of panels. Because, like, that's a cool panel. That's a cool panel. Love that panel. So good. Oh, and this was cool. I mean, there were so many great elements going on. Like, so now the Morlocks and the X-Men are kind of working together. Rogue absorbs his powers, which he became a statue so that he wouldn't die from the injuries. So Rogue's going to absorb his powers, become the statue, and then the healer from the Morlocks is going to heal him. I mean, come on. Community. We're all in this together. And Kitty is like, going to keep her word and become a Morlock bride. Could you imagine? Oh my god, they should have just... What if Chris Claremont, here's your next 5-issue miniseries, Mrs. Caliban, Kitty and Caliban, kicking it in in the alleys, in the sewers of New York. What could be more romantic? Look out, WandaVision. Here I come. Anyway, another great page. Love it. Whose life is it anyway next? I don't know. Anyway, more great classic X-Men coming your way. So much fun. I love this era, like I said. Such great issues. Uncanny X-Men 178 and 179. Do you love it? Classic. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I'll bring you more soon.